retreat, I think a 9 days retreat is devoted to the meditation on the breath, as you may know. So before I will go briefly through this schedule. So at 5:20 there will be like Gedi, they say in Sri Lanka, some sound, letting everybody know that it's a time to get up. But of course, if you're used to meditation, you can get up earlier and do your own practice. But everybody is supposed to get up by 5:30. It's very reasonable. Even those of you coming from far away, like myself, who has a time problem, now I feel, since I come from Europe, I feel very tired by 4 o'clock already, 5 o'clock. It will take some time to adapt to different time. Anyone from you coming from Europe? Anyway, so by 5:30 we will get up, and by 6 we start the Qigong exercise, and the Qigong exercise will take place here. Now I have prepared for those of you who, any one of you have done Qigong before, please raise your hand. Good. So most of us have not done. So we will always start by some warming up exercise, which is very essential for Qigong, and it is very good in the morning to start with. And then we will do always 12 basic exercises, which are called I Ching Ching, based on the Book of Changes, I Ching. And according to the tradition, there are many versions. For those of you who have done Qigong before, there are many versions of I Ching Ching. The one we are going to do here is connected with Chinese medicine, with the 12 meridians, 12 exercises correspond to 12 or 11 meridians, depends how we count. And they are, so to say, they are connected with the meditation on the breath as is taught in the northern tradition. Especially in Chinese tradition, the Tian Tai connects the Qigong exercises and the knowledge of the pranic body, which is a kind of a link missing in the Southern tradition. Southern tradition does not speak of the pranic body. But the knowledge of the pranic body is very essential for the understanding of yoga. And as we will learn, the northern tradition of meditation on the breath is, in a way, directly connected to the Indian yoga tradition. So it may be of special interest for those of you who have done some yoga. The I Ching Ching exercise is, according to the legend, I have some material to distribute in Europe, where I have been teaching, or more, my assistant has been teaching, who is very well versed in Chinese medicine, has been teaching this I Ching Ching in different meditation centers in Europe. So we have compiled a book, kind of a leaflet explaining these different exercises briefly. So these leaflets, I think they will be, we put them here. I have got only 10 copies. Those of you who wish to have a copy, you can photocopy, or ask the office to photocopy, or you can have one of those copies, but make sure that enough copies are left to be photocopied. So there you will find a brief explanation. And since we may also talk a little bit about the Tiantai tradition, which explains the meditation on the breath, especially in detail, so we may also learn a little bit about the meridians and the important acupuncture places connected with these meridians. Actually, when you meditate on the breath, this attention to them will make the meditation on breath much more interesting. So we can change attention from different marman or energy centers in the body to the whole body, and again to the different energy centers. That's how we learn the meditation on the breath. So this Qigong exercise, I hope, will be a very useful aid for your meditation on the breath. Actually, the exercise and meditation on the breath is combined together in Chinese tradition. Then breakfast, clean up, that we don't need to explain. Walking meditation. There are many different styles of walking meditation, so we may discuss the most important ones, and we may connect them with the meditation on the breath. Then in the morning, the Dhamma talk or Dharma talk will be mostly concerned with a method. In the evening, there will be another Dharma talk concerned more with the theory. And as we advance in our practice, we will combine the practical part and the theoretical part together. And I hope by the time you leave here, you will get a more or less a complete picture of the meditation on the breath. Now, most of us, including myself, I have been a Theravada monk for many, many years, actually longer than a Chinese monk. So most of us who have studied meditation on the breath, they studied from the Theravada tradition, where it is in fact almost always taught as entrance into the meditation in general. And the meditation is explained on the base of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So we will also refer to this southern tradition explained in Visuddhimagga, the path of purification, and especially in detail in the Patisambhida Magga, the path of different, I think, discrimination they translate. So later you can consult these books. And as far as the northern tradition is concerned, I will use especially the material you can find in Yiche Shatilun, Yogachara Bhumi Shastra. Unfortunately, I'm not sure there is an English translation, but not complete so far. And I will also use some materials from the Tiantai tradition, which is very important for understanding of the meditation on the breath. The meditation on the breath, as you may know, is very important for all Buddhist traditions because, for a very simple reason, all, in fact, Buddhist traditions agree that this is a meditation the Buddha has used under the Bodhi tree when he has attained what he has attained. So, as you may know, according to the scriptures, the Bodhisattva, which is in Southern tradition a name for Buddha before the enlightenment, while attending a plowing ceremony, waiting for his father, he spontaneously, sitting under the jambu tree, he spontaneously observed the breath and entered the first dhyana. And this experience he remembered under the Bodhi tree after having practiced 6 years austerities. He remembered this experience of the dhyana, and since he has mastered them before with very competent teachers, he then used them to accomplish the perfect enlightenment. This is, in fact, material you will find in all Buddhist traditions. So, you will find also in the places like Samyutta Nikaya that the Buddha asks Ananda to tell the layman when he goes to seclusion, if they ask on what subject is he meditating, he should say he is meditating on the breath. So actually, the Buddha has practiced a meditation on the breath under the Bodhi tree, and practically he continued this practice until his parinirvana. This is what the tradition says. So this practice of meditation on the breath is very important. And in all Buddhist traditions, no exception, the meditation on the breath is explained as a complete course of liberation. You don't need to change the object. You can become a Buddha, either the disciple Buddha, the Shravaka Buddha, Pratyeka Buddha. There are 3 kinds of Buddhas in Buddhism. The disciple Buddhas, the Arahats, the Pratyeka Buddhas, the Buddhas for themselves, and the perfectly enlightened Buddhas. All Buddhas actually used the meditation on the breath as a base for their realizations. So, by practicing the meditation on the breath as we are going to learn, you can master the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And by mastering the 4 foundations of mindfulness, you can master the 37 causes of body, of awakening. And no matter what Buddha we become, there is no Buddha who has not mastered the 37 causes of awakening. It is the must in all traditions. So in the Anapana Sati Sutta, which is a basic scripture for understanding this meditation, the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness is all explained by the practice of mindful observation of the breath. So this is the importance of the meditation on the breath in the Buddhist tradition. Of course, the meditation on the breath has been used actually in not only in the Buddhist tradition, but also in yoga and also in Jaina tradition, actually in all traditions of samadhi that have taken root in India. So the breath, even in our Western tradition, is connected, pneuma is connected with the soul. Understand in the Upanishads, the meditation on the breath, on the prana, which is another name for breath, chi, is of crucial importance. In the Upanishads, like in the Maitreya Upanishads, the prana or breath or subtle breath is the meaning of the Brahma, of the God, of the soul, and the soul being the God and the God being the soul. This is the main teaching of the Indian tradition. Now, as we know, the Buddha has challenged this tradition by the doctrine of non-self, non-soul. And precisely this doctrine of non-self, non-soul is best to be realized by meditation on the breath. Why? We will explain. Because the breath has base, as your text that has been distributed to you explains, is based on body and the mind, and body and the mind is the content of all our worldly experience. We cannot go beyond the body and the mind. So that much about the Dharma talks. We will explain the practical part and the theoretical part. Who of you, if I may ask, have not done meditation before? Any one of you? Normally, in the practical part, I explain the conditions for meditation, about the bodily posture, about the relaxation, and so on. If you are already familiar with these things, then we can go very quickly through them and go directly to the meditation on the breath. But still, it may be very useful for all of us to repeat the basic conditions for getting into meditation. And that we will do starting from tomorrow morning. So then in the afternoon we combine the walking meditation and the sitting meditation from 2 to 4 after 3 days. First I explain the method and let you experience with the method, let you have your own experience. Then we will do the interviews. And the interviews will take place from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I don't know in which room the Tishi Fasha will explain. And you will register. There will be a list for those who want to attend the individual interviews. And maximum time for the interview will be like, let's say, 10 minutes, so that all of you have a chance to consult 2 times. I hope there will be enough time for that. So in the individual interviews, of course, I can teach you, or hope I will be able to teach you in accordance with your background. But after each and every Dharma talk in the morning and evening, we will use some time for questions and answers. And the best way to deal with these questions and answers is we will prepare some slips of paper, and those who have a question will write it on the paper, which will be available somewhere. Where? I don't know. Maybe here, some box. Okay, there. And the pen, so you can write. And before I start the Dhamma talk or after the Dhamma talk, depends on situation, we will then discuss these questions. So please try to ask questions, not general questions, but especially questions connected with the practice. Not the philosophical questions, psychological questions, but questions connected with the practice, and best such questions that are useful for all of us. So try to use intelligence in asking questions. Examine what is useful for you and what can be useful for others as well. So in the afternoon, I see there will be also a little bit of yoga exercise. I think Venerable Tishi is going to take care of that. If not, then I may take care of that. We will see, or we will share the responsibility. I don't know what kind of yoga she has practiced. There are, as you may know, many, many different kinds of yoga, many different yogic asanas and preparatory asanas and so on. And in fact, almost every teacher is using a different skills in introducing the yoga exercise. So we come to the end. We will end up with the evening service. And in the evening service, as I do in Europe, we are going to use 3 scriptures. Maybe alternatively in the original language and in English, and sometimes in Chinese as well. The Heart Sutra, which is kind of essence of the whole complex of transcendental wisdom literature, which is base for the northern tradition of Buddhism, emphasizing the Bodhisattva path. Then we will use the mantra of great compassion in Sanskrit, because the Chinese version has no actual meaning at all. The Sanskrit version, even though it's not very grammatical, it has a meaning. and I might explain that meaning to you. But sometimes we can still, for those of you who are used to it, we can still use the Chinese version, which has no meaning. And then, of course, compassion is the base for the bodhisattva practice. There is no practice of transcendental wisdom, no practice of bodhisattva without the compassion. And the base for compassion again is friendliness or love. So we will integrate also love into our practice. So we will recite the Metta Sutta, which is one of the most commonly recited sutta in the Southern tradition. Then this Dharani of the Great Compassion, and finally the Heart Sutra. So we have a complete set to prepare us for rest or further meditation. And that is as far as our program is concerned. So this schedule, you will find, I wanted all of you to get this schedule, but they are saying it's hanging everywhere, so you can't miss it. So please have a look, study it, or if needed you can copy it or ask the office to photocopy it. Anything you want to ask? You raise the hand? No? Okay. Please wait for the microphone, otherwise...
I think the audience has a lot of Chinese spoken people. So usually I'm familiar with the Chinese sutra, right? Not in the English version. So if you can mention, right, briefly terminology, certain terminology in Chinese, right, then that will be very helpful as to link to what we learn in Chinese sutra.
Yeah, actually, what I am going to say will all be translated into Chinese. I think you may have, where is the translator? I think you will get so that all that I am saying will be translated and you will hear it by the earphones. So you don't need to worry about that. And of course, all the technical terms that are not clear, please kindly note them down, and we will discuss them after or before the Dharma talk. I will try. I myself have been a student of Abhidharma for many years, but I will try as much as possible to avoid too many technical terms. Every science, and Buddhism in fact is a science, inner science. Its scientific nature is slowly in our modern times becoming appreciated, but the depth of it is still mostly missed by most of us. So the Buddhism is definitely a science, the science of inner observation. And like any other science, it needs terminology. And it has developed a very, very minute and very, very extensive terminology, which is very often difficult to translate. As you may know, same in Chinese tradition, you want to translate some Taoist scriptures. It's next to impossible to render literally scriptures like Tao Te Ching. However well you may translate, it will never be the same. The same actually in Buddhism. However well you may translate, it will never be the same as when you actually hear these terms in Pali or in Sanskrit. So sometimes, of course, it will be very useful to explain the original meaning in order to render these technical terms that sometimes we cannot avoid to use, to make them more clear by referring to the original language. And this place is very fortunate to have a very great scholar of the Pali language, who can also be very useful for explaining some details of what I'm going to explain. So that much for the schedule. I see the instructions are to take place until 8:30. So now it's a good opportunity to start. And I start by explaining the causes of meditation. When we want to get into meditation, we should contemplate the causes of meditation and understand them very clearly. Now, meditation, when we speak of meditation, actually the Western term for meditation does not really render exactly what we mean by meditation in the Buddhist tradition. In the Buddhist tradition, and as far as I know in Japanese it is rendered by the same word, actually meditation means becoming. We learn meditation by becoming meditation. So to learn meditation means becoming concentration and becoming wisdom. So we have two things to learn by practicing meditation, and it is concentration and wisdom. So the process of learning meditation is the process of becoming concentration and wisdom. In Japanese, they render narimasu, to become. We have to become that thing. And to become something means to change our habits. According to Buddhism, we are programmed by our habits. Our habits is our karma. And our karma is based on our likings and dislikings. And our likings and dislikings are based on our concepts. Now, the aim of meditation is to transform our habits from the worldly habits to the meditative habits. The meditative habits are the habits which in a way go against the worldly habits. Very important to understand. Now, Buddha says actually, when we learn Southern Buddhism, we all learn Dhammapada. There is a verse in Dhammapada which says, Anya labha upanisa, anya nibbana gamini. There is another way for nirvana. There is another way for gain, worldly gain. And it says, etat yatha bhutam nyatva. When one has known this as it really is, one becomes the disciple of the Buddha. So we learn meditation. It is very important to change our habits. And in order to change our habits, we have to develop discipline. Of all the Dhammas, the Buddha has especially praised the discipline. So, in order to change our habits, we have to develop discipline. No matter whether we are laymen or we are monks, without discipline we cannot learn meditation. And this is very important to emphasize. We need to change our habits in order to master meditation, and for that we need discipline. And often it is explained in Buddhism, actually the learning Buddhism is learning three types of learning. Three types of learning are explained as three types of discipline. The discipline of moral behavior, discipline of concentration, and discipline of wisdom. All of them can be explained as discipline. And these three types of discipline, they are in a way inseparable. We separate them in order to understand them as one whole. And this one whole then becomes meditation, becomes becoming. We become because we cultivate these three types of learning, three types of discipline. We become concentration and wisdom, so we can become Buddhas. We can become awakened. But changing our habits is a long, long process. And this, the more you practice, the more you will see how difficult it is actually to change our habits. Because we are, in one way or another, we are all programmed. The more you meditate, and I hope you will become more and more conscious of it, we are programmed. Our daily behavior is like our computer. Now, in order to change this programming, we have to learn two things. They are explained in yoga. In the Indian tradition, yoga is defined as vairagya, detachment, and practice. The practice, genuine practice leads to detachment, and detachment again leads to the genuine practice. We have to practice so that we detach, and we have to detach so that we practice. And where to start? According to the Buddhist scriptures, like you have in Abhidharmakosha Chisharun, we start learning meditation by practicing few desires, alpe ichata, and practicing santushti, practicing contentment. They are the gates to meditation. So it is very important, actually. We are here in a very auspicious place, which is conducive to contentment and to few desires. We are provided with everything we need. In the early days, those who meditated were not so fortunate to survive in India in the time of Buddha. Was not an easy job. One had to spend much time by begging for food, looking for clothes, looking for dwelling. And things like food, clothing and dwelling was not easily accessible. Now these things are so it is very important to understand that the secret of meditation is based on this quality of few desires and contentment. When we have it, meditation becomes easy. If we don't have it, meditation is difficult. And we don't have it because of our old habits. Especially in places like America, Europe, nowadays even China, we are spoiled. Because we are spoiled, we have no contentment. So I myself, I have spent maybe most of my life in Asia, where you can encounter a lot of poverty, but people are very contented. In a way, they are happier than us. When I have come to Europe after many years in Asia, the first thing that struck me is that most of the people are worried and depressed, while in India or Sri Lanka or Nepal, where I spend most of my time, the people very happy, but very poor. When one is happy, then meditation very easy. Because, as Buddha explained, the happiness leads to relaxation. Relaxation leads to clarity and concentration. And concentration leads to detachment, genuine concentration. And all these things then become meditation. So, in order to meditate well, we need to give up, at least as long as we are here, our many desires, not think about what we want when we live here, about our job, about our family, what we want for them. But concentrate on what we are doing, observing the breath, and observe it with contentment and few desires. Then meditation becomes very easy. So another important factor for understanding meditation is called in the yoga tradition, not only in Buddhism, is called Kaya Viveka. Kaya Viveka means Shenli, means the isolation. We can translate Li, Yuan Li to Li. We can translate as the isolation of the body. What is body? Now we are learning Buddhism, so we should understand it very clearly. Especially we are learning the meditation on the breath. And breath is based in the body, and breath belongs to the body. Yet, it cannot exist without the mind. This is the secret of the breath. The breath is the part of our body, yet it cannot exist without the mind. So the Southern tradition of Buddhism explains breath as a mind-created corporeality. Very important. It is mind-created because it reflects the conditioning of our mind. This is what we want to realize. This is what we want to see very clearly. When the conditioning of the mind changes, the breath changes. And the conditioning of the mind changes due to our perceptions, due to our feelings, due to our will, due to our attention. And all this we can observe on the breath. That is what makes the meditation on the breath so fascinating, so deep. According to the Southern tradition, you will find in the Patisambhidhamagga, the path of discrimination, by meditating on the breath, you can attain as many as 200 different knowledges, jnanas. And by mastering them, you can become enlightened. And all these knowledges you get through the practice of the mindfulness on the breath. So, in fact, all in meditation we can learn, according to this tradition, from observing the breath mindfully. The condition for observing the breath mindfully is turning the mind inside the body. The breath is explained in all Buddhist traditions as entrance into meditation, because by mindfully observing the breath, automatically the mind is turned inside the body. And this is condition for meditation. This is condition for Kaya Viveka, for isolation of the body. Isolation of the body means we do not pay attention to the objects of the five senses. We pay attention to the meditation object. Now, in the northern tradition especially, but indirectly in all Buddhist tradition, all meditation objects are mental objects. Very important to understand. We meditate by turning to the mind. The secret of our suffering, the secret of our happiness is coded in the mind. And by meditating on the breath, we turn attention from outside, from the outside colors, outside sounds, outside smell, outside taste, and outside touch, to the inner. When the mind works inside the body, we develop concentration and wisdom. If the mind is applied outside and identifying with outside, in a way we are cut from this wisdom. And the wisdom in Buddhism means liberating wisdom. Liberating wisdom, the scope of liberating wisdom actually is very large. When we understand more Buddhism, it implies the whole of our experience. That is why in Buddhism, the content of all of our experience is called Dharma. But this is very difficult to understand. From the very beginning, we cannot go outside the Dharma, because the content of our experience is the Dharma itself. Now, breath is also Dharma. The conditioning of the breath is also Dharma. The body is also Dharma. The mind is also Dharma. So from the very beginning until the very end, everything we experience is the Dharma. And this is what is to be realized by meditation on the breath. And it can only be realized when we turn the mind inside the body. And turning the mind inside the body is the condition for practicing the mindfulness of the body. And mindfulness of the body is the base for all meditations. The Buddha explains, Yesam kaya gata sati virudham tesam amatam virudham. One who neglects the practice of mindfulness of the body neglects the immortality, the nectar of immortality. Another word for nirvana. So, because we neglect the nectar of immortality, that's why we still have problems. So the base for meditation is to turn the mind inside. Now the object for doing that is the in-breath and the out-breath. And not just in-breath and the out-breath, is the mindfulness of the in-breath and the out-breath. So in a way, by practicing mindfulness of the in-breath and the out-breath, we are accomplishing the isolation of the body. And because we accomplish the isolation of the body, we can accomplish the isolation of the mind. Chitta Viveka. And Chitta Viveka is the real meaning of shamatha, of appeasement. There is no liberation without the Chitta Viveka. In the Buddhist tradition, we learn the Chitta Viveka, Kaya Viveka, the isolation of the body, isolation of the mind, first on the base of the worldly object, like breath, in order to learn the Chitta Viveka on the base of the highest reality. This is how the meditation on the breath is explained. By understanding our worldly experience through the breath, we can then understand the ultimate reality. And transcend suffering, which is the aim of the Buddhist practice. The suffering of the body, no one can transcend who has been born, but the suffering of the mind is possible to overcome, is possible to transcend. And this is the aim of meditation. We learn meditation in order to go beyond the mental suffering. And that is accomplished by isolation of the body and isolation of the mind. Now, since sometimes linguistic or technical terms very useful, in Sanskrit, Viveka, from the Sanskrit root which means actually to separate. The Viveka means isolation, but it also means wisdom. What the wisdom does is precisely differentiation, separation. So, maybe paradoxically, through isolating the body, we understand the body. Through isolating the mind, we understand the mind. But first, we have to isolate the body, only then we can isolate the mind. And this is what we learn through meditation. This is how we become meditation. This is how we become concentration and wisdom. And we become concentration and wisdom by means of mindful observation of the breath. By this mindfulness, by this wisdom, we can attain all that is to be attained. This is what the scriptures describing the practice of meditation on the breath explain. in detail. And we will try to get the essence of this. Now, the skillful means for isolation of the body is asana. Asana means bodily posture. So the bodily posture should not be neglected. It is very often neglected, unfortunately, especially in the Theravada tradition. But actually, for becoming meditation, the bodily posture is very important. It is very clearly explained not only in yoga, but even in Theravada, in Visuddhimagga. It is clearly explained when the bodily posture is correct, the feelings become different. When the feelings become different, the mind becomes different. So, in order to practice the isolation of the mind, we are also learning directly or indirectly the asana, the posture which should be stiram sukham, stable and comfortable. Learning meditation, we cannot neglect the science of a stable and comfortable posture. That's why we have integrated also Qigong, we have integrated some bit of yoga. Especially for us beginners in meditation, in order to master meditation, one will have to learn many, many lives. Even if you have learned all the samadhis, all the dhyanas, all the vipassanas, it is only the beginning. To go really deep into meditation, it is a matter of many, many lives. Especially if you want to attain the highest, the Buddhahood, which presumes a complete mastery of meditation in all aspects. So we will try a little bit also to integrate the science of asana into our knowledge, because we will talk about it, the how our bodily posture directly, in a way, influences the way we are breathing. We will also learn a little bit about that. When we sit correctly, we breathe in a different way. When we don't support our body correctly, we also breathe in a different way. And this is to be noticed in meditating on the breath. If we notice it and if we understand it clearly, it will be of great help for mastering the meditation on the breath. So the quality of our breath will change when the way we are using our mind and body will change. This is very important knowledge. This is what makes the meditation on the breath so fascinating. So now it's time to stop here. We will continue tomorrow. We can finish by, as usual, by transferring the merit. You have not got your text. So we can recite in Chinese the most simple version, and then I will recite in Pali. You will get the text tomorrow. Also the text of the Sanskrit Tapejo, Karaniya Metta Sutta, and of the Pore Polomi Shinching. All you will get tomorrow. They will prepare. So for now, let us just briefly use the most simple version of Huixiang, of transference of merit in Chinese, and then I will use the most simple version in Pali. Qing He Zhang, Yuan Ce Gong De Pu Ji Yi Qie, Wo Teng Yi Zhong Sheng, Jie Kung Chen Fo Dao. Eta Vata Chamehi Sampadam Punya Sampadam, Sabbe Deva Anumodantu Sabha Sampati Siddhya. Eta Vata Chamehi Sampadam Punya Sampadam, Sabbe Bhuta Anumodantu Sabha Sampati Siddhya. Eta Vata Chamehi Sampadam Punya Sampadam, Sabbe Satta Anumodantu Sabha Sampati Siddhya. Aka Satta Chabumatha Deva Naga Mahidika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Chiram Rakantu Loka Sasana. Aka Satta Chabumatha Deva Naga Mahidika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Chiram Rakantu Desana. Aka Satta Chabumatha Deva Naga Mahidika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Chiram Rakantu Tumampara. Devo Vasatu Kalene Sasasampati Hotucha Pito Bhavatu Lokocha Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So enough for tonight, and we're going to do the regular schedule for tomorrow. Om Mito Bo.